Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, An Unnatural, issue number 4. This is the first volume is finished with this particular issue. Then there's going to be a new volume, so kind of like a new arc. I don't know when the new issue is coming out, but it does state explicitly there will be a new arc, a new volume. And I'm just saying, this last page, that's not actually part of the comic book. This is not a spoiler. It is just a last page that was drawn that is just absolutely gorgeous. And let's just read who actually did this. So writer, artist, and colorist is Mirka Andolfo. The color assistant is Gianluca Papi from Arancia Studio. And letters and production, Fabio Amelia, also from Arancia Studio. Okay, so that's pretty much everything. Mika did cover A, and Bengal did cover B for the variant cover. Anyway, this is going to give the history of her friend, that roommate of hers who was just killed, and oh yeah, she's straight up dead, and she's not being accused of the murder, but she is a suspect. I don't even know if she's the prime suspect. Turns out that this was not the date that she went on wasn't the real date she was scheduled to be on, so everything is working against her. There's clearly a conspiracy. The question is, how many conspiracies are there? How many different conspirators are there? Because clearly this girl is extremely important. That wolf is actually something from several past lives ago. Whoa, we just went into some really mystical stuff right here. And that guy's a jerk, but there's another wolf that looks just like him, probably also a descendant, many lives past, who is trying to help her, but looks just like that wolf. And dude, it's weird. Oh, this comic book is just the perfect amount of weird. So I am enjoying the hell out of this comic book, man. Now, to talk about the social institutions involved in this. Basically, I think that anybody is going to be bright enough to realize that there's a whole lot of social commentary in here. The trick of it is, I don't think that a lot of the people who are going to complain about it are really going to understand what it is that they're actually complaining about. Okay, so the people who usually complain about the social issues in this comic are probably going to be the far right side. I can say that because I like to try and maintain center. The funny part is when people who are kind of far one way or the other and think that they're centrists, they say, you're not a centrist. Yeah. Anyway, the idea is that this is something that the far right will look at and be upset about. The funny part about that is they shouldn't be. Because while there are some things that are very leftist in here, like, oh, you should be able to love the one that you're with, love the one who you want to love. It doesn't matter if it's the same species or a different species. It doesn't matter if it's the same sex or a different sex. There's a lot of gender identity and species identity for the most part here, which the gender identity, the sexual identity is very basic, is very obvious to pay attention to, okay? But the species identity, I think, would have actually been enough, but I guess it kind of has to go towards, I don't know, just being all-inclusive, okay? I was happy with just the species identity. You want to throw the sexual identity in there also, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to change anything, but this is something that I think that some people will jump on. The idea of the species identity is something that I think that your average right-winger is not going to get. They're going to look at it and just say, oh, they're just saying that you could be with, people from different species. No, that's not at all what is being suggested here. I really don't think that Mirka is into bestiality or approves it, because that's just freaking weird. But I will say that, this is supposed to suggest that everybody, it's kind of like the mutant identification here, okay? Mind you, one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived was this black slave called Aesop. Yeah, Aesop's Fables, all right? He was not supposed to be able to read or write. That was illegal back during the Grecian times. And he was a slave, but he was apparently, slavery worked differently in Greece. So he had more freedoms than what we're known for in the West, okay, during the 400 years or plus of slavery. So, yes, he was a slave. He was not supposed to be literate, but he was, clearly. He could have gotten in trouble for this. Also, philosophy was banned. This was during the time that philosophy was banned in Greece because it was considered to be lethargic, and they didn't want the dumbing down of the societies. So he had to, but children's stories were not forbidden. So he simply told fable. He taught philosophy, but in the form of fables. And your average person didn't get it. And mind you, it's not the idea of, oh, they couldn't legally prove anything. No, 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 no. He was a slave. His life was forfeit. He could have been murdered. There is no need for justification. The worst case is, oh, he was somebody else's property. Here's the money we owe you. Okay, so he could have been killed if people really got it back then. We grew up with the idea that these fables were actually something to teach us lessons. But they did not enough people who were in the right positions got it back then. Plus, they didn't really know who this guy was. Aesop wasn't his real name. So, the idea is, so that's why this was allowed to spread. It wasn't considered negative propaganda towards their culture. But this is basically an Aesop's fable. When push comes to shove, that's what this is. This is a huge, very in-depth Aesop's fable. All right? So when I look at this, I see that one of the things that they're talking about is the idea of, identification, labels, and, why can't I just be with whoever I want? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm mainly seeing in this. But something else that I see that I think that, well, not that I think that obviously the right would be totally for is the idea of big government. Now, I want you to think about this. That's how centrist this comic book is. Oh, there's things that the left is going to love. There's things that the right is going to love. If they pay attention and realize what's actually happening here. Because the love who you want to love thing is pretty freaking obvious. But it's the subtlety of the other side of it. The government is so big that they're into controlling every aspect of our lives. The exact same thing that we worry about for socialism that goes too far. Look, I love the idea of social safeguards for capitalism. I hate the idea of total socialism. I would never want to live in a truly socialistic state. Because that's kind of what happened with the communist USSR, all right? So there we have a government that controls every aspect of your life. Hey, man, you can try and find somebody to be with up until you're 25, as long as they're within your same species and the same sexual partner that, is natural. But if you don't find somebody by the time you're 25, well, we're going to start hooking you up and we're going to take in a couple. And if you can't choose for the people who we hook you up with, who are good matches that we've determined as the state, well, then we're just going to give you this person and you're going to be stuck with this person for the rest of your life. Deal with it. Yeah. That's how state-controlled these people are. And oh my God, that sucks. So it's funny. This is a very centrist book. It's easier to notice the one thing that one person, or it's easy to notice the stuff on the left, but it's not so easy to notice the stuff that's on the right in this book. So very centrist. And I love that. I love that about the book. It's really giving you the best of both sides, the worst of both sides. If you don't agree with the leftist stuff that's here, okay, whatever. But clearly, this book is leaning towards the left side is good. But they are also reminding us that too far left is a terrible idea. So it's just one of the reasons why, in my opinion, this book works so well. I'm definitely digging this. I'm looking forward to the next volume. It's gonna the book turned big time with issue 2. Or by the end of issue 1. I forget where we actually realized that this was gonna be like a spy thriller. But like this completely went topsy-turvy for me. But I'm still digging it because now we don't have to focus on the left or the right stuff here. We can instead focus on this murder mystery stuff that's going on, this framing, this cloak and dagger. All right, I'm digging this. I'm definitely digging this. So looking forward to the next volume. Don't know when it's coming out, but oh yeah, I'll be watching. All right, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.